Hey everybody, Adam Davidson, RadCast. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of March, 2020. We're in the season of Lent. We're in Psalm 32. It goes like this, verse 2. Blessed is the one whose sin the Lord does not count against them, and in whose spirit is no deceit. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long, for day and night your hand was heavy on me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. Then I acknowledged my sin to you, and I did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin. Therefore let all who are faithful pray to you, while you may be found. Then in verse 7 rather, he says, You are my hiding place. You will protect me from trouble and surround me with songs of deliverance. And that's the word of the Lord. Confession is good for the soul. We all know that. Well, maybe we don't, but it's a good reminder. When we live with unconfessed sin, which is where we have done wrong and sinned against God, sinned against others, it's like a weight, it's like a backpack. And Paul describes it like the sapping heat of summer, or this feeling of God's hand heavy upon him. It's important to point out that God does not exist to make us feel bad, right? He's not out to crush us. He's not out to discourage us. He's not out to point out how terrible we are. That's not how a loving father is, right? What David is talking about is, man, when we sin, it always puts a wedge between us and pretty much everything else. And he's describing something that is born into us as image bearers of God, namely that, man, we want to do what is right, and yet we can't. We get it wrong. And then in our getting it wrong, we do exactly what Adam and Eve did, which is we cover ourselves, we hide, we turn away from God. We're so funny. We know factually that he forgives us. We know the scripture that says if we confess our sin, he is faithful and just to forgive us. Like, we know that. I know that. And yet there's something about me that just wants to hold on to unconfessed sin and sort of keep it hidden. Because in my weird, twisted mind, it's easier to manage it on my own than it is to deal with it with the Lord. And I hide from him, and maybe you do too. So this season of Lent, these days leading up to Easter, is where we get really intent on looking at two things, ourselves and God. So we look at ourselves and we say, man, I sin. I do the wrong things. I think the wrong things. I have the wrong motives. I'm a mess. That's just the truth about me. But we look at God and we say, oh my goodness, he loves us. He forgives us. He cleanses us. He forgives the guilt of our sin. He removes the weight from us. This is who God is. So be a person who practices regular confession. The old saying is keep a short list with God. Think about that today. That's RadCast.